If you've ever thought your family drama was bad, wait until you hear what happened to me. I never imagined that the person who would try to destroy my life would be my own sister. But that's exactly what happened. And the way it all ended? Let's just say, she never saw it coming. It started on a rainy Thursday afternoon, the kind of day where everything feels a little heavier. I was sitting at my kitchen table, sipping coffee and scrolling through emails, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from my sister, Lauren. We hadn't been close for years, but we kept up the polite family act for holidays and birthdays. So when I saw her name pop up, I figured it was just another awkward attempt at small talk. But this message was different. It was short, cold, and to the point. "Call me. It's urgent." My stomach dropped. I hesitated for a moment, then dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. "Finally!" she snapped, not even bothering with a hello. "I need to talk to you. In person, today." I tried to keep my voice steady. "What's going on, Lauren?" She sighed, exasperated. "Just meet me at the cafe on Main Street." 1 hour before I could respond, she hung up. I stared at my phone, a knot forming in my chest. Lauren had always been dramatic, but this felt different. There was a coldness in her voice I'd never heard before. I spent the next hour pacing my living room, my mind racing with possibilities. Was someone sick? Was there an emergency? Or was this just another one of Lauren's games? I tried to push the anxiety aside, but it clung to me like a shadow. When I arrived at the cafe, Lauren was already there, sitting in the corner with a stack of papers in front of her. She didn't look up as I approached. I slid into the seat across from her, my heart pounding. She finally looked at me, her eyes hard and unyielding. "I'm going to make this simple," she said, her voice low. "You're going to give me $40,000, or I'll ruin you." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. I laughed, a nervous, shaky sound. "What are you talking about?" She slid a manila folder across the table. "Open it." My hands trembled as I picked up the folder and flipped it open. Inside were copies of emails, photos, and what looked like financial documents. At first, none of it made sense. Then I realized what she was trying to do. She'd pieced together a story, one that made it look like I'd been embezzling money from the family business. It was all circumstantial, twisted just enough to look suspicious if you didn't know the truth. I looked up at her, my voice barely above a whisper. "You can't be serious." She leaned in, her expression icy. "I'm dead serious. You have 1 week to get me the money. If you don't, I'll send this to Mom, Dad, your boss, everyone. I'll make sure you lose everything." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My own sister was blackmailing me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw the folder in her face. But I forced myself to stay calm. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, my voice shaking. She shrugged, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. "I need the money. And you owe me. You've always been the favorite, always had everything handed to you. Well, now it's my turn." I stared at her, stunned. I'd known Lauren was jealous, but I never thought she'd go this far. I tried to reason with her, to remind her of all the times I'd helped her, all the times I'd covered for her mistakes. But she wouldn't budge. 1 week, she repeated, gathering her things. "Don't make me do this." She walked out, leaving me alone with the folder and 1,000 questions swirling in my head. I sat there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. My mind raced with fear and anger. How could she do this to me? What if people believed her? What if I lost my job, my reputation, everything I'd worked so hard for? When I finally got home, I broke down. My husband, Mark, found me sitting on the kitchen floor, clutching the folder and sobbing. He knelt beside me, wrapping his arms around me. "What happened?" he asked gently. I handed him the folder, unable to speak. He flipped through the papers, his brow furrowing as he read. When he finished, he looked at me, his eyes full of concern and something else. Determination. "We're not going to let her get away with this," he said firmly. "We'll figure this out." For the next few days, I was a wreck. I barely slept, barely ate. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, terrified it was Lauren with another threat. I kept replaying our conversation in my head, trying to find a way out. But no matter how I looked at it, I was trapped. Mark, on the other hand, was calm and methodical. He started going through the folder, analyzing every document, every email, every photo. He asked me questions, took notes, and started making calls. I didn't know what he was doing, but I trusted him. One night, as I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling, Mark came in with a determined look on his face. "I think I found something," he said. I sat up, hope flickering in my chest for the first time in days. "What is it?" He handed me a printout. "Look at this email. The timestamp doesn't match the server logs. And this bank statement, there's a transaction here that never actually happened. I think Lauren forged some of these documents." I stared at the printout, my mind racing. If Mark was right, then Lauren's entire case against me was built on lies. I could hardly believe it. The idea that Lauren had gone so far as to forge evidence against me was both terrifying and oddly empowering. If we could prove she'd faked the documents, her entire threat would collapse. But I also knew that confronting her without solid proof could backfire. Lauren was clever, and if she sensed we were onto her, she might escalate things even further. Mark and I spent the next day combing through every piece of evidence she'd given me. He compared the emails to my actual inbox, checking for inconsistencies in the headers and timestamps. He even called a friend who worked in IT to help us analyze the metadata. The more we looked, the more cracks we found. Some of the emails had formatting errors that would never appear in real messages. The financial documents had subtle differences in font and layout. And the supposed bank transaction was dated on a holiday when the bank was closed. It was clear Lauren had fabricated the entire thing. But knowing the truth and proving it were two different things. I felt a surge of anger at Lauren for putting me through this, and anger at myself for ever doubting my own innocence. Mark, ever the strategist, suggested we gather as much evidence as possible before making our next move. "We need to be smart about this," he said. "If we go to your parents or the police, we need to have everything lined up." "No room for doubt," I nodded, grateful for his calm presence. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a glimmer of hope. That night, I barely slept. My mind raced with possibilities. What if Lauren tried to retaliate? What if she went public with her accusations before we could expose her? The fear was suffocating, but I clung to the hope that the truth would win out. The next morning, Mark suggested we meet with a lawyer. We found a local attorney who specialized in family disputes and cybercrime. I was nervous as we walked into her office, but she listened patiently as we explained the situation and showed her the evidence. She examined the documents carefully, nodding as Mark pointed out the inconsistencies. "You have a strong case," she said finally. "If your sister tries to go public with this, you can not only defend yourself, but you could also press charges for fraud and attempted extortion." The word extortion sent a chill down my spine. I'd always thought of Lauren as difficult, even manipulative, but I never imagined she'd cross into criminal territory. The lawyer advised us to document every interaction with Lauren from that point forward and to avoid any direct confrontation until we were ready. Armed with this advice, Mark and I set about building our case. We printed out every email, every text, every piece of evidence. We made copies and stored them in a safe place. Mark even set up a secure folder on his computer, just in case anything happened to the physical files. Meanwhile, Lauren continued to send me messages, growing more impatient and aggressive with each passing day. "Time's up," one text read. "If I don't have the money by tomorrow, everyone will know what you did." Another message was even more chilling. "You think you're so smart, but you're not. I always win." Each message made my blood run cold, but I forced myself to stay calm. I didn't respond, just as the lawyer had advised. Instead, I focused on gathering more evidence and preparing for the inevitable showdown. Mark, ever the rock, kept me grounded. He reminded me that we had the truth on our side, and that Lauren's lies would eventually catch up with her. He also started looking into Lauren's recent activities, trying to figure out why she was so desperate for money. What he found shocked us both. Lauren had racked up tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. She'd been living far beyond her means, buying designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and taking lavish vacations she couldn't afford. She'd even taken out a second mortgage on her house. It was clear she was drowning financially, and she saw me as her lifeline. The realization made me both angry and sad. I remembered the sister I'd grown up with, the one who used to braid my hair and share secrets late at night. How had we ended up here, on opposite sides of a blackmail scheme? As the deadline Lauren had set approached, I felt the pressure mounting. My parents called, sensing something was wrong. "Is everything okay?" my mom asked, her voice full of concern. I wanted to tell her everything, but I knew I had to wait until we had all the evidence. The night before the deadline, Mark and I sat at the kitchen table reviewing our plan. "Tomorrow we go to the lawyer and present everything," he said. "If Lauren tries anything, we'll be ready." I nodded, my nerves raw but my resolve stronger than ever. I wasn't going to let Lauren destroy my life. I wasn't going to let her win. The next morning, I woke up to another message from Lauren. "Last chance. 40,000 or it all goes public." I took a deep breath, then typed a response. "I know what you're doing, Lauren. I have proof. If you go through with this, you'll be the one in trouble." For a moment, there was silence. Then my phone buzzed again. "You're bluffing," she wrote. "You have nothing," but this time I wasn't afraid. I had the truth, and I had Mark by my side. The day had finally come. I felt a strange mix of dread and relief as Mark and I drove to the lawyer's office, our folder of evidence sitting between us like a shield. I kept replaying Lauren's last message in my mind, her words sharp and desperate. But I also remembered Mark's steady voice, the lawyer's confidence, and the truth we'd uncovered. I wasn't alone in this fight. When we arrived, our lawyer greeted us with a reassuring smile. "Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded, clutching the folder a little tighter. We sat down in her office, and she began drafting a formal letter to Lauren, a cease and desist, outlining the evidence of forgery and extortion, and warning her of the legal consequences if she continued her threats. The letter was clear, direct, and left no room for misunderstanding. As the lawyer sent the letter, she advised us to prepare for Lauren's reaction. She may try to deny everything, or she might lash out. But you have the law on your side now. If she contacts you again, let me know immediately. We left the office feeling lighter, but the anxiety hadn't fully disappeared. I kept my phone close, waiting for Lauren's response. Hours passed. Then, just after dinner, my phone buzzed. It was Lauren. Her message was short, but the tone had changed completely. "We need to talk." I showed Mark, and he nodded. "Let's do it together." We called her on speaker, and after a few rings, she picked up. Her voice was shaky, nothing like the cold confidence she'd shown before. "I got your letter," she said quietly. "You didn't have to do this." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Lauren, you tried to ruin my life. You forged documents, you threatened me, and you demanded money. I had no choice." There was a long pause. I could hear her breathing, could almost picture her sitting alone, realizing the consequences of her actions. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered. I didn't know what else to do. I'm in so much debt, and I thought you'd help me if I made you." I felt a wave of sadness, but also a strange sense of closure. "You could have just asked, Lauren. I would have tried to help you. But what you did was wrong. You need to get help for your finances and for yourself." She didn't argue. For the first time, she sounded defeated. "I know, I'm sorry." After we hung up, I sat in silence, letting the reality sink in. The threat was over. Lauren wouldn't be able to hurt me anymore, but the scars of her betrayal would take time to heal. The next day, our lawyer followed up with Lauren, making it clear that any further contact would result in legal action. Lauren didn't respond. Weeks passed, and the silence was both a relief and a reminder of everything that had happened. My parents eventually found out the truth. At first, they were shocked. How could their daughters end up on opposite sides of such a terrible conflict? But as we explained everything, they understood. They were heartbroken, but grateful that I'd stood up for myself and that Mark had been there to help me. Life slowly returned to normal. I went back to work, my reputation intact. Mark and I grew even closer, our bond strengthened by the ordeal. I learned to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, and to never underestimate the power of truth. But the experience changed me. I became more cautious, more aware of the cracks that can form in even the closest families. I realized that sometimes, the people you love most are capable of hurting you in ways you never imagined. But I also learned that you can survive, and even thrive, after betrayal. One evening, as Mark and I sat on the porch watching the sunset, he squeezed my hand. "You did the right thing," he said. "You stood up for yourself and you didn't let her win." I smiled, feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. "I couldn't have done it without you," I replied. "You saved me." He shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just helped you see it." Looking back, I realized that Lauren's threat had forced me to confront not just her actions, but my own fears and doubts. I'd always tried to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to be the good daughter. But sometimes doing the right thing means standing up, even when it's hard. Even when it means facing someone you love. If you're watching this and you've ever been threatened, manipulated, or betrayed by someone close to you, I want you to know, you're not alone. You have the right to protect yourself, to seek help, and to demand respect. Don't let fear or guilt keep you silent. The truth is powerful, and you are stronger than you think. As for Lauren, I hope she finds her way. I hope she gets the help she needs and learns from her mistakes. I don't know if we'll ever be close again, but I do know that I've found my own strength, and that's something no one can take away from me. So if you ever find yourself in a situation like mine, remember, you have options. You have people who care about you. And sometimes the evidence you need to turn the tables is closer than you think. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you the courage to stand up for yourself, to trust in the truth, and to never let anyone hold you hostage with lies. Because in the end, the truth always wins.